this time for real. Welcome to Red Road Journeys. I'm Charlie Chewy Baca, and this is Jackie. You go by, well, what's your name? Okay, I wasn't sure
Jay.
which one you went by.
Jay.
Jackie J. All right, everybody just calls me Chewy. I've actually had that nickname Chewy since Star Wars came out. Because when I think I was like in 6th grade or something, and I always had a bushy head, so people used to make the connection, and they used to make fun of me a little bit, but I kind of ended up owning it, because I thought, you know what, about this cool, man.
Yeah, he
That's
is.
what I want to be. I want to be cool.
You just need your strap.
Yeah. A bandolier? Yeah, I did actually. When my junior high, I had a bandolier, and it had a bunch of little miniatures in there. That way you could be like,
Of course. Of course. Right?
then I would puke.
You still sounded like him.
Puking Chewbacca. Yeah, that's a lovely sound right there. I'll have to create one. Anyway, wanted to talk about today the culture of recovery again. And I mean, what is a culture? A culture, in short, is a way of life. One of my degrees that I got at UNM actually is in cultural anthropology. And I always figured it was my duty as a native anthropologist to, study white people, study America. I mean, hell, they always studying us, right? Like, I know the joke at Zuni used to be, what does a Zuni family consist of? It's a husband, wife, 2 kids, a puppy, and an anthropologist all sitting at the table there, right? An anthropologist will have his recorder and taking notes. So I always thought it was my duty to study American culture. And once I really had to get serious about it, holy cow, man, there was a lot of stuff I found. I was like, really, man, this is like a thing. This is a real thing. So for our purposes, we'll go to that 12-step saying. They always have that sticker, I remember, a way of life. I think it was actually on Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar, if I recall, a way of life. It was an AA sticker. But that's what a culture is, a way of life. So you think about the alcohol culture. I mean, there's so many fringe cultures. If you were to think about alcohol culture being a big old hippie jacket that has all these little fringes, and those are all the subcultures. All right, I don't know why I said hippie jacket, by the way. Well, look at the biker drinking. I mean, that's a whole culture into itself. Or the sports teams, people who are into sports, and that's a huge culture. They got their own language, they got their own clothes, they got their own TV programs, everything, right? I mean, and the native drinking culture is way different than that, but it's still a drinking culture, right? It's become a way of life. And addiction is such a cultural thing. Like, think about meth culture. I mean, that's totally a different culture, right?
Drinking culture.
Yeah, they have different tools, right? They have a different lingo, a different language, pretty much. They have a whole different way of life, staying up for 4 or 5 days.
And I was going to say not just like the physical stuff, but like just that way of thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, is different.
Oh, yeah. When you're up 4 or 5 days, man, your thinking's got to be, it's all over the place, right? You're seeing shadow people and shit and spirits. And then you look at the heroin culture, and that's way different too, you know. And totally different. Although the cultures can converge, because there's some people who like the speedball, you know, mixing heroin and meth. That's crazy right there, man. Talk about culture clash. That's like Indian people and white people meeting, but in your brain.
And how we present ourselves and how we interact with people. All that is going to be those different culture of using. That it's the same thing. And
you really won't find like too many meth addicts hanging out with heroin addicts.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, you probably, this is no absolutes, but so we hang around like-minded people. I know when I was drinking, I could not hang out with anybody who didn't at least get high, right? I just couldn't relate. Couldn't relate. I go to family reunions on the res in Arizona, and I'd be freaking out and just be hiding until my cousins who drank showed up, you know. Then I'd be like, all right, now the family reunion's on. Look at the weed culture too. I mean, everything about the weed is totally cultural. You got hairdos, you know. I seen natives with big ass Bob Marley dreadlocks, and they even be talking like them, you know, with the lingo. It's like, dude, man, you're from Tuba City. You're not from Jamaica.
You're not Jamaican.
I'll go
Tuba.
jaw this, jaw that. See, there's even a whole spiritual part of cannabis culture, and so. Oh my God! In the LSD culture, that was one of my favorites. That was like loose. That one kind of confuses me because, man, I'll have to. I'm not exploring. I did all my research. I'll have to look back on that. But so anyway, when a person quits drinking and using, they need a new culture, right? And that's what recovery is. That's what 12-step programs. And it's pretty much it's a culture, and that's why, like we're talking about in the last video. First month getting sober, it was really a cultural shock.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I think one of those things too is not only is it a cultural shock, but then I because I know that I wanted to be sober, then I had to like identify myself as sober, right? And so like and in doing that, it was like I had to keep coming back. I had to keep hanging around with sober people. Not just in the meetings, but like afterward, because I didn't know how to deal with myself after I got out of that one safe hour.
Fellowship?
The fellowship was extremely important, and to me, like I would go to meetings 2, 3, 4 times a day because I wanted to stay sober. I didn't want to go drinking. I didn't want to go to my old playpen again. I didn't want to go to hang out with the same people that I've been hanging out with. I just needed to stay sober. And in order to do that, I had to like change everything about myself. And like one of the things that to me was like one of those cultural shocks, one of those sobriety shocks to me was like, okay, we were sitting there doing whatever, we had a meeting, and there was this one woman, I won't name her, she knows who she is, and and she would always give me hugs. And to me, that was the strangest thing.
It was.
For a woman to come give me a hug, because to me, I was like, I would like cringe from her, you know, and I was like, why is she hugging me? Oh my gosh. Like, what does she want from me? That was my thought. And so like everything had to shift over into like, this woman loves me for who I am.
I think it was one of those Wobriety, White Bison videos out of Colorado, but they was doing interviews with Indian people. I remember this one person was stating that when she got sober, it's just how much alcohol has affected Indian country, that her when she'd been sober a couple of years, and when she went to hug her mom, her mom was like cringing. It took her mom a long time to get used to be, hugging. Yeah, and it's weird. I mean, that's like, when you enter a new culture, it's gonna feel fake. I mean, that's a guarantee. All change feels totally fake, and you just got to understand that that's absolutely the most normal thing to happen. It's supposed to feel fake, right? If a native person, if a Navajo went to New Zealand and started hanging out with Maoris, I mean, everything's gonna feel kind of fake, It's like, I'm supposed to do what? A tattoo? Where? What? I mean, everything's gonna feel fake. You try doing their tribal dance, that haku thing or whatever. What do they call it? Haku? Is that what it's called?
No, that's a poem.
Oh, is it? Oh. All right. That's the culture of LSD creeping out there, as it often does. Right. But that dance the Maoris do. No disrespect. I'm sorry, I can't think of it right now. But if I was to try to do that, even if I was doing it right, which I doubt I would, I feel fake as hell, man. I'd be like, what the hell am I doing? And so when a person goes to meetings, for example, they're going to sit there and everything is going to feel fake. You're going to be like, this is bullshit. This is a cult. What's he looking at? And, oh my God, who's she? I mean, everything's going to feel fake. And it's supposed to feel fake. So give yourself a chance to adapt. And adaptation, change is a process. It's very rarely an event. Like getting sober can be an event, right? Living sober, like we were talking about earlier in the last video, living sober is a process,
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
important things to remember. So give yourself a break. If you've gone to a couple of meetings and they turn out to be bad meetings, and there are such things as bad meetings.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know some people say, I've never been to a bad meeting in my life. I have. I was a pretty outlandish, crazy shit at meetings, I remember being at a meeting in Santa Fe, and this guy was talking about, and Santa Fe is a little different, and this guy was talking about how how many days he had free from masturbating compulsively. And I'm like sitting there going, I'm in the meeting going, what? And I'm looking at these newcomers and they're like going, what the hell is this place? You know, and I'm like, well, what's the
That's
you know,
not an AA meeting.
Yeah, everybody's clapping for him. And I'm like, well, what the is he talking about? You know?
Like back out of those meetings slowly and like just turn around and get to your vehicle.
Yeah. So I mean, if you've gone to a bad meeting, you know, give yourself a chance. Go to another one. Even
Go to another meeting.
the same meeting a different week. Meetings are kind of like people. They can have their own personalities. One week could be really good. 1 month could be really good. Then you go to that one meeting and it's just kind of what the heck? That was kind of weird. I didn't really like that one. But it's kind of like people. So I mean, it can have its own personality. So give it a chance. If you give it a chance, you know what? You're gonna have an eventful ass life. That was one of the things they told me in this new culture was after I finally got a year of sobriety, there was this guy named in Flagstaff, and after I got my first year, he told me, he's this little white dude with like a turtle nose, and I remember him telling me, you know, Charlie, if you now that you have a year, you have a much better chance of really making it, and you stay sober, you're gonna have an eventful ass life. And boy, he wasn't kidding. I haven't had a boring day in 30 years. That's hard to think of. Boredom was one of those things I was really afraid of. I really haven't. Maybe a little bit in Iowa, because I went out to Iowa. I followed a girlfriend to Iowa, and I didn't bring a guitar like an idiot. And so that was, I coped with boredom then. I learned how to cope with it, but I mean, it's just such a huge thing. Going to college, oh my God, getting sober, going from the 9th grade, being a 9th grade dropout, and then all of a sudden thrown into this college culture. It totally felt fake, you know. I totally did not know how to be a student, and I had to learn from other people, which were usually people in recovery.